FNAF is one of the most popular indie horror games ever made, with thousands of fan games like Pop Goes, Five Nights at Candy's, or The Joy of Creation. And this is Scratch. It is a game engine where I can make some interesting projects, to say the least, and I had this very dumb idea of dedicating the next 3 months of my life making a FNAF fan game in Scratch. But we have a problem. Scratch is meant for kids to learn the basics of programming, and it is very limited, slow, and frustrating to work with. But whatever, I'm bored. So let's start with the idea. I didn't want to just entirely copy FNAF, so I went with a farm-style game where the animatronics are animals in a barn. And the first idea that I came up with was a rabbit. Yeah, very original. I named him Ollie thanks to this very professional name generator, and I sent a photo of Ollie to my friend and he actually said it looks pretty good. The second animatronic is this rooster called Chuck. Yet again, very original. And by the end of this video, I think you will hate him. Next, I wanted something actually unique. So after using my brain to its limits, I came up with this pig called Ham. You know, cause like pig meat is ham and like it's a pun, but yeah. And last but definitely not least is this dog that I named Dog, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually think he looks really good. And now that we have our main characters, we can finally start coding the game. But wait, what is the first thing that comes up to mind when you think of a game? Is it A, the gameplay, B, the soundtrack, C, the graphics, or D, the story? Well, of course E, the name. So I thought to myself, you're in a barn at midnight with animatronics. Midnight Barn. So with the title we could start coding the main menu, which I did thanks to clones, and also made Ollie's eyes follow your cursor, which took me a while to figure out, and then I deleted it. Yep, all that time went to waste, and I later made this new main menu that I think looks better. So next I moved on to something a bit more important, the office. But first I will need to make a sketch. It will be a room with one door in the front. There will be a door button that will close the door, but also a shut button underneath. Then I made this prototype version of the room and desk and made it move around with your cursor to make it a bit more alive. Here's the code if you want to use it yourself. I also added this room behind you where you'll be repairing your door, but we will focus on that later. On the desk, we have this little Ollie plushie which has a very important feature, a coffee cup, and the most important of them all, this laptop, through which you will be watching over the animatronics. Which brings me to the cameras. But before anything, I needed to make a map of the place. With that done, I started modeling all of the rooms, which took me a while to make, and again, I changed them up later, but the final layout looked like this. The stage, this dining area, restrooms, kitchen, storage, and finally parts and service. I also put some barrels around the area so that it has a farm vibe. And now that we have our assets, we can begin coding. Again. First I coded these buttons that you will use to switch cameras, and looking back, my code was very stupid. You see, what I could have done was make the buttons through clones, but what I did instead is, I made a separate sprite for all 6 buttons. But hey, at least it works. However, the animatronics still don't do anything. So here comes the fun part, the AIs. For each animatronic, I made a variable for their AI value and their status. And the way it works is actually pretty simple. Every 5 seconds, there is a poll of a random number between 1 and 20. If this number is lower than the AI value, the animatronic will move. For example, if Ollie's AI is 10 and the random number is 8, he will move. But if the random number was 12, he would not move. These are called movement opportunities, and we will be using them for every animatronic. Here's the code in Scratch if you would like to use it. But we still need to make a very important decision. What will the animatronics actually do? So after some intense thinking, I came up with this. Ollie is pretty straightforward. When he appears in front of your office, you must close the door quickly. Ham is similar. She will go to your office, but if you hear banging on the door, you must use the shock button. When Ham bangs on your door or it is closed, your door durability goes down. You will be repairing it in this room with a control panel that I mentioned before. It also shows you the current status of the door, and if the door durability goes to 0, you instantly lose. Chuck is where the things start to get annoying. He will go to a random camera that has a generator, and if you see him there, you must quickly use this audio button to scare him away. Otherwise, he will break the generator and you will lose. Oh, and I also added some static to the cameras, and now it's much better. But then I realized something. There's nothing actually preventing the player from being on the cameras, and that is where Doug comes in. If you ever spot him glitching on your cameras, you must quickly turn the cameras off and wait a second or two. So once we had all the ideas figured out, it was once again time to start coding. And also modeling, because the animatronics actually need to show up on the cameras. And after spending some time on that, they finally did. Seeing them appear on the cameras for the first time was actually a pretty big moment. Of course, I'm not going to show you every single camera position, but here are some. Quick pause. If you would like a tutorial on how to make a FNAF fan game, comment down below. And also, if you are enjoying the video thus far, please consider subscribing since it helps a lot and we are really close to 5,000 subs. Now back to the video. I also made Ollie and Ham appear in front of your office, but at first they would just kind of teleport there. So I fixed that by adding an animation. And also, I finally finished the office. I think it looks pretty good. And after days of coding, I finally had a working demo of the game. So of course I sent it to my friend and he even made a video playing it. Link in the description if you want to check it out. And I think it's safe to say he had fun.
Stop you like 2 seconds ago. You. He's done.
Yeah, he definitely had fun. But more importantly, the game works. Or at least, that's what I would like to say. Remember how I said Scratch is frustrating to work with? Yeah, this is exactly why. See this? I call this the layer bug. Basically, Scratch only gives you two options when it comes to layers. You can either send something to the front or back, or move it forward or backward by a few layers. There's no go to layer block, which is just why? Like seriously, Scratch, please add this. And because of that, things would randomly appear in the wrong order. Animatronics would go in front of the door when closed, or in front of things they definitely shouldn't be. It just made the game look like a joke. So after hours of trying to fix it, thinking, I came up with a solution. And it is probably the best solution possible. I just spammed random numbers until it worked. Very smart. So right now we have 4 nights fully coded, but I wanted night 5 to be a little different. Something like in FNAF 4 where on the last night there's only Nightmare Fredbear. And since we are on a farm, I thought it was a cool idea to make the animatronic a scarecrow. And after a literal days of modeling, I made this, which I think looks pretty good and also creepy. So after making all his camera positions and coding his AI, he finally worked. What he does is he goes to your door and also to the cameras with a generator. So basically a combination of Chuck and Ollie, but a lot more aggressive. I also made this cute little crow that will randomly throughout the night just scream until you click on him. He can't actually attack you, he's just annoying. So after another while of coding, we had the 5th night done too. However, we have still not added one very important aspect of games, and that is sound design. So I went into Pixabay and searched for some cool sound effects and ambience, and it is already much better. But it still felt like something important is missing. The lore. And instead of minigames, I made cutscenes with a text engine, which I did thanks to Griff Patch's tutorial, so definitely go check it out after this video. And I think they turned out very well. And now, our game was coming up very nicely. However, we still need to add many details that make the game feel done and polished. So first I moved on to making a settings tab where you can turn on or off the jump scares, cutscenes, or flick controls, which I did thanks to clones, and it is actually a very short line of code. Next I started doing the extras tab, which has 2 sections, the assets and a custom night. First I will do the custom night. I started by making these boxes for each animatronic. By clicking on them you can change the AI value. Next I added a max button, a reset button, and also a begin button at the bottom. Of course there was also a very short line of code, and if you type in a certain combination of numbers, this happens. Yeah, the game literally stops. Then I did the assets tab. That was pretty easy. And of course, since we don't want the player to be confused right as they open the game, I added these notes which will act as a tutorial. So at this point the game was basically done, but there was still one small problem. It didn't actually remember your progress. And after I did that, many of you guys requested me to teach you how to do that. So here's how to make your Scratch game save progress. Reminder that this only works if you are going to package the game. First, find the variable that you want to be saved. In my case, it is the night variable. Replace it with a cloud variable. Then, instead of adding a set variable when the green flag is clicked, drag it out and just press it manually. Once you did that, download the file from Scratch and put it into TurboWar Packager. Link is in the description. Under the cloud variable section, choose store and local storage. Finally, just package it to whatever file you want and it is done. It now saves your progress. And finally, it's time for the least enjoyable part of game development. Playtesting and bug fixing. And let me tell you, I found a lot of them. So here's a quick montage of the funniest ones I found. What? What the fuck? Where's Ollie? So yeah, our FNAF fan game is actually done. And honestly, it turned out way better than I expected. If you would like to play the game, the link for GameJolt will be in the description. Of course, you can also play it on Scratch. Okay, never mind. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.